Welcome to the Upholstery Show, live from Arlington, Massachusetts. We're going to serve you up a beautiful bowl of coconut fiber. Well, here we are. We have a special guest today that's going to be joining us. You might be able to guess who that is. His name begins with the Jimmy. Jimmy's in the massive studio audience. Let me see if I can see him up there. Yeah. I might need my binoculars.
You see the flashlight? Yeah, that's me. Right
there he is.
Yeah, flashlight, baby. Yeah,
and he's got a new T-shirt that you'll see soon that is wonderful. Wonderful. He's in his formal attire today.
Yes, I don't go anywhere without this, so I've been told not to.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Between you
and you'll see.
Put enough squeeze on me.
You'll see why. But we have a lot of business to cover before we get to Jimmy, and we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to get right to it. But before I do that, actually, we had a busy day here today. We had a very important delivery for all of you guys who are in business, and one thing I don't think I've ever talked about is presentation on delivery. I make sure today was the rain was coming into Boston. It was a very nervous day for me. I had a sofa and a wing chair and a side chair that was being delivered, and that's a big job for a small shop. So pretty much all your eggs are in one basket with that job. We had to rush, right, Patrick?
Yeah,
Patrick and I had to rush to get this thing delivered before it started really raining here in Boston. Even though it's covered, anything can happen. So we cover all of our pieces in plastic, taped down, make sure that the wind doesn't carry it. I mean, common sense stuff, really, guys. But you would be surprised at how sometimes people drop the ball. They could be the best upholsterer in the world, and then on delivery day, they drop the ball and they're not presenting it well. So always present your work well, and that way there you avoid problems. Anyhow, just wanted to get that out. So I'm going to start right in with, we had a lot of response to this redesigning a store-bought piece, and I think we need to remember this, Patrick, so that when we do other YouTube videos, that we pick the ones that get the most questions or comments afterwards. And this is from Robert. He says, this is about the redesigning a store-bought piece, which was just put up, right, Patrick? Mm-hmm. Never ceases to amaze me the different quality of furniture on the market. And I would add to that quality and also style. But the thing about these that we featured on this, and if you haven't checked it out, check it out on our YouTube channel, Redesigning a Store-Bought Piece, is that what attracted the designer to these pieces is the thinness of the piece, the streamlining of the piece. That is something that you don't find on the market today. But then there were other things that weren't so hot on it, like that flange that we showed you on this. It didn't really look well at all because it was wrinkled in spots and it was wavy in other spots, which doesn't look well. So we're going to fix that or redesign that. So that was what that show is all about. And then Anil, he says, looking forward to the finished product. And we have to make sure, Patrick, we show that because everybody's curious about what that's going to look like. Right. So we have to remember that too, to feature that. Once one is done, we can feature that with the contrasting piping and the beautiful fabric that it has on it. And then we go to how to cut fabric around posts. And at the 6-minute mark, CM comments and the 10:40 mark where the most helpful info came in for me. This could be in a textbook. I wish I watched this before I ruined my last batch of custom printed fabric. Well, speaking of textbooks, Patrick, we have a textbook that we had copyrighted in 1991 that's available on the Broadway Upholstery School in digital form and in hard copy, Patrick, too?
No, just digital with the kit. It's not sold separately.
Digital, right.
Because it ties in very well to the kit, so you kind of have to have the full package thing.
Right. And so if you want to see a textbook on upholstery, the basics of upholstery, by the way, I should say that we do get into pleat cuts on this, but not the cutting that I was showing on this. This was a little bit more advanced, how to cut fabric around post. So you do have cuts that get a little bit more advanced or difficult as you go along in your career. Like, for instance, probably the hardest cut that there is a Martha Washington chair arm cut. And I think we feature that in one of our videos, Patrick. Yep. You guys want to see a really interesting cut, go to that Martha Washington chair. And I think Patrick had something funny on a thumbnail on that.
Picture of Martha
A
Washington.
picture of Martha Washington. And I think that's a great video for showing different types of cuts. Doesn't come up often though. A lot of times, even I don't see too many real Martha Washington chairs anyhow. And another comment from the Redesigning a Storebought piece. This is from Janine. Janine's been great to us. We appreciate Janine quite a lot. She says, please show us the end product versus the original when finished. Love being creative like this. So that's it. If you guys are going to be going into an upholstery career and you're going to be working with designers, you're going to get a chance to be creative, that's for sure, because that's what designers like to do most. You know, every client wants to have a different look in their house too. So a good designer will be creative on each house that they go into. You can't do cookie cutting when you're a designer. You need to be, every house is unique. Every customer needs something different. So that's where their creativity is challenged, I suppose. And this is certainly something I've never seen before with what I'm doing with these pieces. I really like what I'm doing on them. So we get into another question, or comment. Can't wait to see the end product. This is from Fiona. And then we have a comment on the American Victorian sofa stripping and measuring for the fabric. So this was, I believe, this wasn't a recent video, but this is a comment from Yoala, and he says, it has so surprising to see all of these pattern haters. I love the pattern so much. So I guess that fabric had a pattern, that we upholstered that and had a pattern, and I guess most people will comment they didn't like it, but to each his own, right guys? So thank you for these comments. We'll go to the next ones. Oh, by the way, this is a live question and answer. We did start a little early, so I don't know if, Patrick, do we have any comments right now?
Oh, yeah.
Before I go, so don't forget to ask your questions, you guys, and comments, especially if you've signed up for the online classes, especially if you've got a comment or a question about one of the old YouTube videos, or an upholstery question in general. Somebody was asking about, you know, the Nagas, I think. I'm not sure who that was. You know, there was a rumor that when Naga hide first came out, Jimmy, that the animals that they used for that was something that people didn't like, that type of, you know, use. The Nagas, you know, people were concerned about the Nagas and the Naga hide. So.
And what year was this, Kevin? They were.
Oh, I think Naga hide. What did Naga hide come out? I think I started seeing Naga hide in the '60s, but I wasn't working in the '60s. I was working in the late '70s, and it was there then. So.
Well, I remember my mother and father having a ottoman that was a Naga hide.
Yeah, the Naga hide was the first synthetic leather that came out, and it was a
durable,
tough material to work.
Wicked tough.
It was very thick.
It survived my family of 6.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so we have another question: how to pick the right cushion. So this was a recent one too, and we got a few comments on that. Anil, hi Anil, he says, other names for Dacron. In India, when I tell them Dacron, they keep a puzzled look. They keep a puzzled look. So other names for Dacron, let me see. Dacron is a synthetic cotton. Dacron comes in layers. It's a manufactured batting that comes in layers. You can get it in different forms. You can get it in loosed form, which they use to fill cushions or the backs of sofas. You can get it in that layered form in 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and I think 1.5 inches. Dacron also is a woven material into clothing, although I don't get into that. Although I do see it in some upholstery fabrics have it, I think, in the grain in it. But another name for Dacron, I would say, you could say batting. batting. No, so as a batting, it's used to go over, I use it mainly to go over cushions. And as a batting, like on seats and things like that, I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't advise it for a large area to fill, because Dacron is too airy. Okay, does that make sense? And it will bat down after, no pun intended. It won't hold its you know, resiliency or shape, right? So you're better off with something a little bit more oomphy, like horsehair or coconut fiber or hay.
The lights go dim with that?
Hay, coconut fiber, horsehair, probably the three older battings, but horsehair probably would be the best of the three. The other two not holding up so well. And then it also says, great content. This is what all of their required. Highly appreciate your efforts. Keep coming. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's nice. I love these compliments that we get. You know, it's hard work. People see me, they hear me talk, and they say, what's so hard about that? But what you don't see is a lot of the background stuff, which you don't see the editing and the camera work and everything else. And right now we have a question or a comment.
Sylvia asks, what is the difference between a boxed cushion and a bull nose cushion?
A box cushion can be either piped or, see if I have one here somewhere. Actually, hold on one second. This is just a filling, but this will demonstrate very nicely. This is well, some people call it a bullnose. I call it a waterfall. So the difference is your fabric comes right. It's a good question, Sylvia, actually. Your fabric comes over and wraps all the way around with no seam. And your seams are on the side. Oftentimes they're hidden because the seat, let's say it's a chair cushion, you won't see any of the seams, so you don't see any seams in the cushion. Now beware, you can't have a pattern. It's not advisable to have a pattern because when you reverse the cushion, your pattern will be upside down. Now a box cushion, let's just turn the cushion this way. A box cushion is not as round, it's straight, and you can either have a piping around here or just a seam. So that's the difference. Good question though. Love these good questions, keep them coming. So that's that.
Lauren also spotted the settee in the background.
Oh, well, we're going to get to that. Yeah, that's going to be a big surprise. Our special guest, if she wasn't listening when we started, who actually worked his way into the crowd that we have here. I mean, they are socially distancing very well, I might add. because
Can't see anybody else. They're so far back.
so far, there's so.
I think they're in another city right now, Mr. Kennedy.
I think we're talking zip codes here, right?
Yes. I think it's almost like a different time zone.
Yeah, I want to mention a nice comment from John. John and Anne Marie are checking in.
Oh, hi, John. Hi, Anne Marie.
Just got back from the workshop and it's very busy. That's what we like to hear.
They got back from
Yes,
the
they're
workshop.
just in from the workshop. It's 8:20 p.m. here. Very busy.
Wow, they're getting in work at 8:20 after a long day. That's a long day,
I
huh?
hope they stop for dinner somewhere.
Well, I'm glad to see the economy is doing well. That's an island, right, Patrick?
Yep.
So an island.
I'd love to go.
So we
Last
have.
I heard was that Ireland was back on lockdown. I thought maybe that's
Ireland?
France.
Oh,
Well, we don't know. We don't know.
France is.
What's that, France? Yeah. Well, we can make. We reach out to all the continents here, Jimmy, at Upholstery on Broadway.
Nothing like a good Irishman, baby.
So now we have Anil saying, oh, he's already said this, so he's got another comment. Would love to see inner form split out of spring down cushion and down feather cushion. Well, I think on that one there I opened up the back of the cushion, but what Anil is just saying is like a cut right through the cushion, which would be interesting. Yeah. I don't know how to do that because the Marshall unit is metal, so you would need a combination of a foam cutter and something to cut metal to get the cushion to cut in half. I think that's what he's asking. Yeah, Sawzall.
Sawzall would work.
That could be an assignment for you, Jimmy,
I
maybe
have one.
time. But you know, I'm going to warn you, when you cut through that down, all the down's going to go flying all over the place.
They'll think I'm molting.
It's not a chainsaw, is it?
It's not a
No,
chainsaw.
Sawzall, no, it's a single blade. It's a long, probably about 2 feet long. There's various blades. You can cut wood, metal, plastic.
I just,
We're gonna get you to
I
Home
think we
Depot
can.
this week, Patrick.
I
Well, I
think
just bought a chainsaw, I wouldn't work with it.
Kind of like might ruin the place.
that'd be pretty messy.
Yeah.
So,
Patrick looks like he's eager, Kevin. So.
yeah, you know, we have an ego. We're going to sell tickets to this event.
Oh.
At the local stadium here is Foxborough Stadium, so we'll put Patrick on the
We'll be lucky-
50-yard line.
Well, they'll be lucky if they just people drive by and blow their horn.
Oh, that's right. They're not watching the games, are they?
No, not really. It's down
brother.
quite a bit.
Well, Joseph says on the same how to pick the right cushion. He says, good info, I'll check out the website. So he's talking about Broadway Upholstery School website where we have all the supplies.
Mention that too. Broadway Upholstery Supply.
Oh, right, Broadway Upholstery Supply now because
We're
that's,
getting into just we're getting crazy busy.
Yeah.
So. But like I said, I put a post up there to mention that the school isn't going anywhere.
no,
That's
the
just a separate
schools.
section of the site.
Yeah.
We're gonna have franchise opportunities.
You know, I have to say, yeah, you know, really, maybe one day, Jimmy. But we have to say that in waiting, so many people call me locally. This is locally, not so much for Janine and Anel and John and Anne Marie, but people in waiting. I mean, people are calling me every day. When are you going to start classes again? And I can't really plan anything within in-store classes yet. I mean,
Not when this thing's still going on.
No, we
And
got-
the numbers are up.
the numbers are up and around here, and I'm not sure where you are, hopefully not, but I heard where the Dakotas, where they were doing good, now they're going way up.
Well, people get relaxed and all of a sudden they go
Yeah,
out and they go to
so-
a restaurant, they go shopping, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
So
And
we
they
hope,
get-
yeah, so we hope that it just goes away so we could start planning
Well,
classes.
You'd like it to go away. You just wish that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank God. Now I can go back to my life.
We were just getting into, Jimmy, and we were still working this out, Patrick, because there were problems associated with this. We had a large number of people, maybe 10 people in a class, and we had
Yes.
noise problems because people were banging the hammers, and it was very difficult for Patrick to film that, but we were just kind of working out, and when all this thing hit. And I think that would make an excellent class for people. They can see 10 or 12 projects going on at once.
In all different ways.
All different people, all
Oh.
different styles of work. I think it would be so informative. Now, right now, I think it's great that we're doing one at a time and we're carrying people right through the process. It's a little slower, you know, but that's to be expected. But the pace of a class, it's like, you know, I have to be on the ball with those classes. They're fun for me, and I know people like to have fun, and we can't wait to get back to that.
Well, I remember all the classes I've taken. It was a lot of wingback chairs, dining room chairs, automatic.
Jimmy was one of our first students in a class in this building. There's about 450 square feet, and we had Jimmy and 10 ladies. Can you imagine? And we had some fun, didn't we, Jimmy?
Oh my God, the first couple of classes was hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can go into that one.
No, but I mean, it was fun. They're all adults. They're all having fun. We kept it, you know, tried to keep it civilized as much as possible.
Oh yeah,
Rachel?
we did. I enjoyed it. It was.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to walk into a class where it was actually going to be more women than men.
Yeah.
And one of the other classes I had taken a couple of years later, there was a night class. There was at least 6 guys and only
Yeah.
a few women, so
Yeah.
it was just balanced out a little bit.
Yeah, and I would, you know, we've talked about this before. If you're like John, I'm not sure where John is on his career. He sounds like he's busy enough, but you can never be too busy, I don't think. I don't know if John's ever considered offering a class in upholstery, but he sounds like he might be in that arena. I would highly advise it. You get out there in the community, you get your name out there, your business name, you develop ties. Your best customer students usually end up being. So I would highly recommend classes for anybody, and I wouldn't be shy about it. I would just do it. I think it's a lot of fun for you too. So David now.
Sylvia has a question.
Sylvia has another question. Sure.
Do you have any videos on how to sew a waterfall cushion?
You know, I know for sure we don't have that. So write that down
Can we put it up?
for Bernice.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Yeah.
We'll put that on our board right now.
Yeah, and you know, it's much easier to do a waterfall cushion than a box cushion, I will say that. But there are little secrets to it like everything else, and we'll try to do that. And we have another question or a follow-up?
Oh, Lauren asks,
Lauren.
when and where can I watch you upholster the settee?
Well, it's going to be...
I said something about that on there ago.
Okay.
But so I wouldn't say soon because Jimmy has one more class before that. But I'm predicting this one will be released in the spring.
And actually, we're going to give you a preview towards the end of this class on Jimmy's settee and talk a little bit about it. So maybe that will, if she has a question pertaining to the settee, Patrick, Lawrence, a specific question, tell her to put that in there. Tell her to ask that question or comment, whatever. Okay, so the next one's from David. This is one of my favorite YouTube videos. We had a chair, a theater chair, an old theater chair from the 30s, I believe. Was it at the Chinese Theater out in Los Angeles or something, Patrick?
I don't know.
Rollins Chinese Theater?
Yeah, some exotic location, a theater that had closed out there. Some exotic location. And, you know, you could just imagine some of the movies that were probably viewed on this. You know, it's probably Gone with the Wind, right, Jimmy? Those movies in the 30s.
The real
those good
movies.
Yeah, the real movies. So when we were doing that, it was just a single chair that somebody had bought and that needed to be restored. That was a lot of fun. But now, this is a long comment, or question, I guess. I have a theater chair I'm trying to fix. What are the chances of that? It's typical fold-up, but I put too much weight on the end of it while sitting on it. Patrick, this reminds me of another story about me. Should I tell that story?
Yeah, after the question.
All right. End of it while sitting on it and sprung something inside so that it doesn't stop in the proper position but slopes downward when fully folded down. It sounds like what happened to me. He's talking about the mechanism, and you got a problem because the mechanism is made of metal. The parts are probably you can't find unless you had another theater chair of the same era that you could take parts from like they do in automobiles. So there's a problem here already. The works are indeed of the seat, but for the life of me I cannot figure out how to get it open. There are no screws holding it together. It looks like two sheet metal shelves that somehow got pressed together. I am afraid that if I try to pry them apart that I am going to damage something even more. Any advice is how to proceed? Thanks. I think that if he's watched all the parts, how many parts were in that theater chair? I think there were a few parts.
Too long. It's
So
2 or 3.
we have part 1 here. He should follow through that because I show how to take that chair apart. I know. I show how to take that apart. And I think he's talking about the same type of chair. So he should watch all of them. And if he has any other questions, give us a call. But I will tell you that I had a terrifying experience with the theater chair other than this one. I went out with the wife to a movie in one of these old theaters, you know. It was one of my old neighborhood theaters when I was growing up. And they have these old chairs, not quite as old as this though. These chairs are probably from the 40s. This one that we did here was from the 30s. But I went in, I sat down, and the chair went out, flat out like a recliner, Jim. I went right back, and it flattened right out.
In front of everyone.
The whole theater in front of everybody shook. And it's a good thing nobody was behind me, because they would have gotten a lap full of, you know who, me.
Yeah.
And that
Who
chair.
don't want that?
No, who wants a lap full of me? So, I was very upset, and everybody was laughing. And then one lady, including my wife, I might add, one lady said, maybe, she stood up. It was like one of those scenes from, one of those scenes like Brokovich or whatever her name is, where one person stands up against everybody else and says, wait a minute! You know, one of those moments, Jimmy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't had too many of those in my life. So.
Oh, well, anyhow, a woman stands up and says, maybe instead of laughing, we should make sure he's okay.
And you never saw that one again?
No, I was appreciative of that. And then I got up and I very casually left the theater.
Your head down.
With my head down to speak to the manager and tell him, one of your chairs fully collapsed on me. I'm sure this has happened to another patron.
I know you're the first, sir.
Exactly.
No way.
I was the only person to ever do it.
Well, we know you didn't show up there anytime soon.
No, I never went back. I had another experience at a movie theater.
Hall of shame.
That chair's probably still, I visualize they still have yellow tape around that chair probably.
Yeah, they probably thought the next step might be falling in.
Yeah, but imagine an upholsterer having that experience. What are the chances?
I don't know. I think you probably should have gone into upholstery mode. Hey, what the kind of?
I should have said, do you know who I am?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Kennedy, Upholsterer of the Year 2018.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I know I can be a little bit of a ham sometimes, but it's all in fun, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Ham. So we have a question about stuffing a cushion cheaply and effectively. P. Siski says, my featherback cushions are driving me nuts. Every time you get up from the sofa, they're sunk down or collapse. You've given me an idea, though. I'm going to buy cheap pillows and shove them in the cover to see if that helps. You know what? As the economy takes a turn sometimes, you need to have suggestions for people. You know, not everybody can afford upholstery, and not everybody is in a good spot, you know. That this was a good video, I think, to enhance a back cushion, and also to add to the longevity of a piece of furniture. I mean, if you can add life to a piece of furniture 5 or 10 years, that's wonderful. You don't have to buy, you know, you can put off that purchase for something, you know, spend it on something else. I think all these little tips that we give, Patrick, we used to call them quick fixes and things like that on the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So the quick fix.
Its own little playlist there.
Yeah. I would suggest that you go to that if you want to try to save some money. I'm not saying that it's like that stuffing the cushion. What I'm not saying is, professionally, if somebody came to me and said they wanted a new back cushion, I would be making a beautiful cushion. Let me just show you what we do. Bring this one down. See,
Oh, I like that
Jimmy,
one.
they're up here for a reason because I don't want them to get ruined. Look at that, Jimmy. That's a beautiful beveled cushion, beautiful fresh, down-proof ticking with a little stitch here, machine stitch here. It's all hand full this way, right? And just a little stitch to close it up, and that's it. This is a beautiful. This probably has this is a 50% down, 50% feather cushion. And this probably weighs about 12 pounds. So isn't that nice? That's what you get with a professional, you know.
I have a project a chair that's sitting in somebody else's house for over a year. So that, it does not come with a cushion.
Well, we can hook you up with a really nice cushion.
Oh yes, that is like wow.
So now we have TJ, and she's talking about the Upholstery Show Live. We don't get too many comments on the Upholstery Show.
They're all live comments. After the fact.
Of the live.
What's the comment?
The comment is, hello there again. Question, does cotton batting ball up if the piece of furniture is used often? The answer to that is it shouldn't if you use it in the proper places. If you use it to cover a cushion, yeah, it's going to ball up and then get hard and not feel good. Cotton batting should only be used over a foam or over muslin, and then the fabric over that, and layered. Just one layer really over that.
You wouldn't separate it and kind of crisscross it.
You need to be careful with cotton. It comes in layers, and you pull it apart by your hand, so you can imagine.
Okay.
So, and then they go on to say, I'm reupholstering dining chairs, and I'm wondering if I should use cotton or Dacron. This is a really good question. So, in the old days, I mean, in my career, upholstery fabrics they weren't as much as they are today, or many varied styles as today. So we used cotton a lot, and because the fabric was heavier, and it just worked better with cotton, a full layer of cotton. And the nice thing about cotton is that you can trim it with your fingers. You don't use your scissors, and it feathers out nicely. But it's really hard to work. If you tear it up, it's kind of a problem.
So it's kind of like a light pull.
You have to be careful. It's actually, the pull is actually when you're trimming it, you actually have to hold. You tuck your thumb down like this, and you run your finger along. Let's say this is the front of the chair, and then with your other hand you pick the cotton so that it just feathers, and that the cotton doesn't come below where you're tacking or where you're tacking. It has to feather out a little bit above that point. So there's a very, very distinct trimming of the cotton. It is harder to work. Now Dacron, I'm going to give you a little tip here. This is T-Jean. Before I get to the rest of her question, she's got other questions within the, I think she's got like 3 questions in here. So you can do this with Dacron. Okay, so I'm going to get a piece of Dacron. I think I have a piece around here somewhere. Let's get it. So if your Dacron, little trick, so let's say you have your dining room chair, you've just covered it with foam, and you need to put a batting on. You take a Dacron and put it over. You don't have to staple the Dacron down, believe it or not. If you trim out, if you split your Dacron in half, that's the only way you can do this. You can actually do the same feathering as you can do on your cotton, and you don't need to secure it or staple it down. Stapling another row after you've stapled your foam, for instance, and before you staple your fabric, sometimes creates a problem. I'd much rather have it loose on there than have it stapled, as long as you're trimming it properly. That's the key. So I think I answered her questions. If she's watching and I didn't, please, you can contact us. If you're not watching right now live, you can contact us for next week's question and answer. But then she goes on to say, as I tried both so far for practice, the cotton seemed to be a bit lumpy, and there was an area where the cotton was thinner in a section, almost a hole. So I can guarantee you that she's using after reading this, she's not using AAA cotton. AAA cotton is the best cotton. I think she's using a or AA cotton, which is definitely would cause this, or she's got a paper tab in your AAA cotton. You got to make sure that your tab is the paper tab is separating the layers, because if you don't, you have inconsistent layers. Okay, cotton is very fussy to work. You need to be shown how to work it, and I don't think, Patrick, we have a video about that.
Not specifically about cotton.
Because we've it's kind of like the trend in this, at least for me, as I've gone to Dacron. I've gone a lot to Dacron on my top cover. So then she goes on, so when I draped my fabric over the chair, it felt and looked a bit lumpy, which is not a good thing at all. The Dacron looks and feels perfect. Well, there you go. She's found the reason Dacron is sometimes better, especially on thinner fabric. So a lot of times, like getting back to when I first started in the business, heavy fabrics would hide almost all the imperfections that a natural cotton would do. So the thinner the fabric or the lighter weight the fabric, the harder it is to work cotton and to get it less lumpy. So Dacron is Dacron is going to be more consistent. It's much more consistent than cotton, a natural fiber, right? So you got to know when to use batting. We talk about this a lot on the online classes. And that's where we get really in depth. The YouTube, not so much, admittedly. In the online classes, and Jimmy asked a question today, and when he comes up, I'm going to remind him about the question he asked today, just to give you an example. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, it's mainly because on YouTube we don't have as much time.
We just don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing classes. Each class is an hour to an hour and a half long, and they go 12, 14 classes, right, Patrick?
And we've noticed that on YouTube people don't want hour-long videos. They just want to be able to see these quick tips.
I think so our retention rate. Last time I looked, and Patrick, you could check this again for me when you get a chance.
Right.
I checked this a while ago, but the retention rate was about 5 minutes and 25 seconds, which for YouTube is like a long time. That's really good. I mean, most stations, they throw things up there, and if they get in 2 to 3 minutes, they're lucky. But that's what the retention rate is, Patrick. I'd like to see if it's increased. It's something to watch, no pun intended. If your retention rates are going down, it could mean that the quality of your videos aren't as good as when you start, for instance. So I'm just giving you guys a tip if you ever want to start a YouTube channel. We can actually do a program just on that, Patrick.
Yeah, I know. We've made mistakes for sure.
Too, it's a matter of how experienced someone is in upholstery and what they think they know.
Yeah.
I have a question before you get to the next question.
Yeah.
Lauren asks, says, thank you. I'm planning on doing the diamond chair class soon because she's a tufted piece and that would be perfect for what
Perfect,
she
yeah.
wants to do. But I do need help with coil cushion redo before she could do that. Can you recommend a video where that's demonstrated? Have we done that?
What is it?
Coil cushion redo.
Coil cushion redo.
So she's redoing it.
Well, I mean, we have our most popular ones, the 8-way tie, Patrick.
Yeah. So that's the very first video.
Yeah. And that's gonna stand up to the test of time, which it has already. I mean, you know, it's funny. That's what, you know, with the fast pace of electronics and social media and politics and everything else these days, it's dizzying. But in upholstery, things don't change that much. And I love talking about this because I mean, things have changed around me for sure. I mean, like what we're doing now is a very different than what my mentors couldn't have even dreamed of what I'm doing now, that I can reach as many people as I do teaching online. But what I like about upholstery is that 8-way tie hands. I think that was one of the first ones, 10 years, Patrick, or 8 or 10 years or whatever.
11, yeah.
That's as good as today as it was back then, because nobody's come up. They try all the time to come up with the better seating, but they can't come up with the better seating than a hand-tied coil spring with the proper materials, right?
So that's the video you'd recommend to Lauren?
I highly recommend that.
Yeah.
And also the
8-way
fundamentals,
tie.
Patrick. The fundamentals is even more, but she's going to get a lot more than that. If she wants focus, she should do the 8-way tie, the YouTube one, yeah. Okay, we get to another question. T. Jean, she comments, how to cut fabric around posts. She says, wow, wow, wow. I'm so very appreciative for your help. I'm reupholstering 4 dining room chairs. They're King Louis replicas. And this was a huge, huge heyday for me. I guess that's what it says. Thank you. You saved me so much time and money. And she has 2 prayers. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for the comment. That's a nice comment. And then Janine has a I like this. She's bought the online class, The Diamond Chair, which I think is probably going to prove to be one of the best ones, well, equal to Jimmy's Arts and Crafts chair.
I was going to say, it's right there. Be careful what you say.
Yeah. I don't know.
Notice how quick I recovered from that.
Give him a folding chair. He'll be happy.
You should have seen the look he had on his face when I said that. You remember that movie, The Shining, with Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, what's the look, Patrick? Dad won't be sleeping tonight.
We had 2 classes that we did that were good. The Diamond Chair and the Arts and Crafts chair that Jimmy did.
And the Ottoman, don't forget about that.
Oh, the Ottoman, I forgot about that.
You know, that's what's been good, I think, with these classes. There is a variety of, again, we have this my project now. We have the hooded my Arts and Crafts, the Ottoman.
Also, the one before that, Jimmy, remember?
Which one was that, Patrick?
The I can look at. I forget the name.
I don't remember.
Well, what I guess the point is
There's
that
so many. That's what you can't remember.
I think the more content we put up, the better value. You might have to revisit how much we charge, because I think it's probably one of the best values out there.
Carved mahogany chair, Jimmy.
Carved mahogany. I keep forgetting.
Oh, that's right too.
The content, the best I think is the yearly subscription for that, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but if somebody's just wanting to get a chair done, one-time deal, the one-time class is fine. People do that too, but I think
Even the other day, somebody asked me they didn't want a class specifically about a piece, and I directed them. The perfect thing for that is the fundamentals of upholstery kit.
yeah,
That
I
covers
think
everything.
so. I think so, yeah. But on a very, admittedly, it's a very basic, but it gets people involved. It gets them to know tool use and procedures and how to cut fabric. It does everything right from the beginning to the end.
You apply that Ottoman thing in that video to almost any piece.
So Janine says the diamond chair that she's watching lesson 5, and this is an excellent question, and so this is more directed. I think this is directed on every level of upholstery. I would say. My answer will be to anybody really that's upholstering. She says, would the upright pleats at the top face left and right from the center rather than the facing either right or left? For even a number of pleats. For symmetry, I mean. I get it if there is an uneven amount of top pleats to all face one way. If you didn't understand any of that, that's fine. I'm going to explain it because it's such a good question that I'm going to go into a little detail here. I just need a pen and grab a pen over here. So what she's asking at the top, I believe, at the top of Michelle's share that she was doing, she had 3. She had 3 buttons, okay, at the top, 3 tufted buttons. So, and then below here, she must have had a couple of more, right? So each button, and then I'm going to put another one down here. She's doing diamond tufting. So each this is what a diamond tufting looks like. It looks like a diamonds, right? And what Janine is asking up at the top to the wood frames, the wood frame here. Let's say this is the wood frame. Wood frame. There are single pleats that come off that top button, right? So Janine, I noticed something about Janine. Her attention to detail is like unbelievable, which is good, which is really good. She was asking, I think on Michelle's, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong about this, I can't remember. We either put all the pleats to the right or we put all the pleats to the left. But what Janine is asking, why can't you have this pleat going this way and then alternate the pleats? I think that's her question. So if you have an odd amount of pleats, I think it might be a problem, because then you're going to end up with one, if you guys can follow this, one pleat too many going one way. Does that make sense? So if you have, it's only going to work, I think, on an even amount of pleats. I think the shorter answer is that something like this is totally up to the upholsterer, totally up to the person upholstering it. And this is why on something like this, the best tool that you have is, no matter what level you are, is pin tacking. So if you're not sure, you're not going to just start stapling pleats going one way or the other. What you're going to do is you're going to pin tack the whole thing, take a look at it, say,
I have a picture of that up right now, of the exact moment, of the exact
do
step
you,
that you're
Patrick?
talking
How did
about.
you do
I
that?
found it, I took it from the class. So.
Wow, he's good, isn't he, you guys?
Oh, he's the best, yeah, the best.
But I just can't see it, so I'm not sure what it looks like. But I think
If you want to come back here, I have it up. If you
I'm
want.
going to go look at that for a minute, you guys. Hold on, because this is a really good question. Got all going one way. Nice. So Patrick, I don't know how he found it, but he's got all the pleats that Michelle did are going one way. So what Janine is asking is, can you alternate the pleats, or can you make one side go one way and the other side go the other way? I think that's totally up to you. I think that's the creative part of being an upholsterer. I think that's where the art comes in. You know, nobody's the same, and I think Janine can just make up her own mind about that. You know, yeah. What a good question that is, though. I hope she's enjoying that class. So now, our special guest, who's been chomping at the bit to come up here, and I see that he's on his 3rd box of popcorn,
I'm not paying attention right now.
and he's already laid
That and a very half-gallon of
Coca-Cola,
Coca-Cola.
and he didn't break any theater seats. Thank you, Jimmy, for being respectful about theater.
This
Unlike some other lad that I know that broke a
Just
chair.
ruins the whole event.
Before you come up, I'm going to tell one more story about a theater. I might as well. Should I, Patrick? Should I?
I think we have time.
You're taking my time. Good God, man.
It's funny though, isn't it?
I think
it's
you want to
funny.
see some work. Come on.
All right, Jimmy, come on up
Next
here.
time. Say
Yeah,
that
next time.
Yeah. Maybe we can have one of those fireside chats that you always kind of like.
That's for the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast. Yeah, there you go, Patrick. Good.
Jimmy, you asked a question in class, okay? We'll start with the back on this.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimmy has, he webbed the back. Let's turn it around to show people the back so they can see what's happening. So it looks pretty simple, doesn't it, guys? But there's a certain procedure that Jimmy had to follow for this, and the questions that he asked, really good questions. I mean, this is a round back. So we were talking that the very base material that you put on reflects in the very top. Mm-hmm. So if you start out wrong, it's just going to carry wrong to the top, meaning the fabric. So Jimmy learned a lot on the webbing. This is on the online classes that Jimmy is going to be doing. Let's bring it this way and talk about the burlap, because you had a question. That's what the difference between the online classes and the YouTube videos. and this is a good example. So Jimmy was asking, first of all, I will say that we put these in 3 sections, the burlap.
Yes.
We started from the bottom and we worked to the top,
Mhm.
and we respected the curves. But what was the question that you asked?
The difference between why I would have to put 3 different sections versus one large piece.
Yeah,
And basically, you could do it, but you would probably spend some time on making sure that this is as close as it is.
yeah, yeah.
And you'd have very little room to have a flat area and then to start back up again with the curve again.
It would be extremely awkward.
Yeah,
And,
it was,
and so what we do is we cut the pieces 3 inches bigger. I mean, I think I told you 4.
right.
2 is to not. There's a certain amount of extra that is good, and you can have too much extra, which is not so good in handling. So another problem with running it this way, if you could manage to do it, it would be very difficult. Would be that you'd have too much material to work. That's
Right.
another problem. So dividing it up, actually the most important part of it is it gives you the curve. You have to stay really close to the curve with your batting and your burlap and the webbing.
Mm-hmm.
So that provides you the opportunity to do that, and then you have this break in here which allows you to give a little stretch more than what you would have. So the other thing we did, we finished the webbing on the seat, and I wanted just to, maybe you can demonstrate the clinch it. See, I
My
know I'm going to be
favorite
putting
tool.
some pressure on you. You want to show people in the live show how that instrument works.
Well, if you want to talk about it a little bit.
Well, the clinch is one of the last cutting-edge innovations in upholstery. It's about 90 years old. That's the last major innovation.
It looks like something from the Goth era. How's that?
Yeah. So what they are is they're little clinchets that come down that are held together with paper. And each one's supposed to come out to that point right there.
At the very end.
And then you have a trigger
Yes.
that you plant the staple in over the rung of the spring, and you put some pressure, about 10 pounds of pressure down, and then you pull the trigger. And then hopefully what happens is the clinchet pulls around the bottom. Let's just hold it up like that. Oh, what happened? Oh,
Well,
we only have
we
one
only have-
clinchet.
now, tell them the basics of
So
clinching.
what we did, when we stopped, that's a good, that expresses it well. That's why you need 3 clinchets in each spring,
Yes,
right?
that is the key.
And the way to test, actually, Jimmy, why don't you put 3 in that one that you're doing,
Okay,
it evenly spaced.
okay.
It's one of those really nuances, right?
Yeah,
Some people will be 2, some people would only put 1, you never know. So sometimes, because it's an older, tool, it will jam. And gravity is supposed to take the clinchets down, but it never works that way. So you have to do it by hand. So now what I want to show you, Jimmy, pull up on that spring to see, that's how you test to make sure all 3
yeah.
clinchets are working. And this is probably the best method to tying springs down, and the easiest. Unfortunately,
Tell some
well,
of
here's
the-
some good news. The good news is we have that on the Broadway Upholstery School website.
Yes,
The bad news is it's an expensive piece of equipment.
the most expensive. I think it's
Yeah.
probably.
I can't remember what it is.
It would rivals the staple guns with the compressor. I think.
Yeah, but it's a tool that saves you if you're doing a lot of these coil springs.
Well, tell our listening audience what you can do as far as an alternative.
Well, we have it on the YouTube, the video.
Okay.
What you can do is, and then we're going to close out with this because
Actually, Dad, we should go a little over. I just got a very interesting submission on email,
okay.
so we can do that before we go.
Let's just do this. Let's just Jimmy. I'm going to do this. How's that
Okay.
sound? I'm going to do one of these. So.
Well, what is it? What is the thread?
So remember, you always need 3 points of the spring covered at least. And one thing I never do is I never just hand tie it all the way around. Some upholsterers do that with the curved needle.
Okay.
They just hand tie it all down and then they tie the ends. I don't like that because if it breaks, the whole thing breaks.
Right.
So I like my method, which I'm about to show you. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to cut a piece about a yard of this nylon tufting twine is the
Okay.
key, and a button needle. Okay, those 3 things and a pair of scissors. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread one side, just one, not both ends, and I'm going to go on one side of the rung. I'm going to pull it through, one end through, And I'm going to thread the other end. Right, Jimmy?
Okay.
And then I'm going to go around the rung. Really close, really close. And then you guys can see this on YouTube, on our slip knots that we have. We have
Okay.
at least 2 videos on how to make a slip knot. So a slip knot, when you start, you have to be slipping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to show people how to make the slip knot, but they can go to the YouTube channel and see it. Okay, so we're going to make a slip knot. Very fast. And then the thing about this is you want to get this really tight. You want to slip that right up there. And then you lock it by pulling the other one, and then you make a knot in there. Now I want to show you something, Jimmy, you won't believe. Nylon, make sure it's double knotted. Then you cut it about an inch from the end.
Okay.
Now,
Wow.
Jimmy, take a look at that.
That looks, oh wow.
That's as tight as the Clinch is. So that's the alternative, and then you need to put 3 on each one.
Now, seeing this for the first time and you talking about it for so long,
Yeah.
I would think that you would have done it more through the webbing only to get a better grip.
Oh no, that's it.
Okay.
That's in there.
Okay.
That's in there. You mean, you can't have it wider
Okay.
because it won't lock, it won't get tight. You really need it tight. That's why you do the slip knot and not just pull it through and just tie a knot.
Okay.
That won't work.
Okay.
It has to be tight. It has to be no play in it at all. And that's why the Clinch It tool works. I'm going to put another one in there. You have 1 Clinch It, and I'm going to put another one.
Now
You're
you
gonna
use
have
as many?
3.
3 is it for each
You only
one?
need 3.
Okay.
If 1 fails, you're okay. If 2 fails, it's still going to be okay. But if I were to take the curved needle, this is what some upholsterers do. They take their curved needle. I don't like this. I've never done this before. Thread out, get about 2 yards of threading, and then they just go in and out all the way around the bottom, and then on the end they just tie it.
Oh no, I
That's-
would, if I had to do it the way you're talking about it,
It would be this way.
I would do it that way, but also I would probably do it 3 different ways. Not one way you breaks it, you're done.
Yeah, yeah. If you just have it 1 thread and you're going in and out, and if it breaks anywhere, the spring will tilt or turn, and then you're in trouble. That doesn't happen for a while, but we're looking to see, when we upholster, we want something to last, our upholstery to last, the innards to last 80 to 100 years. That's our goal is.
Well, when I had gotten this sofa, it was actually the bottom part was actually just hanging, so
It was time.
it was time. It was due.
Jimmy, I want you to pull that up, that spring, like you did the
Oh,
3
yeah.
punch. Feel it, compare it with the machine.
Oh yeah, same. I feel
Yeah,
the same.
exactly the same.
Wow.
So do we have another question to close out, Patrick?
Yes, you got a very good, cool email.
A cool email. So do you want to bring it out here?
There you go.
There's one more question here too.
Let's do the question first. Jimmy, you can stand right there if you want.
Okay.
Warren asks, I want to tuft with crushed velvet. Who is a good supplier of crushed velvet, and what does it look like for in a
What do you
upholstery
look for in an upholstery clip?
crushed velvet?
Well, crushed velvet is a really old material, and you're the first person. Now we have a crushed velvet A.H. Davenport that we repaired. I'm not sure if they saw that, or if they saw that and that's why they're asking. And they could check that video out of a crushed velvet. But crushed velvet is something that is usually the older fabric companies would have it, and there used to be a local fabric company called Andrew Dutton, which I don't think they're around anymore. They had it, but you have to look for one of these older fabric companies. And then you have to look at vintage. You have to be lucky. I think you have to Google, because I'm not sure if there's first run crushed velvets anymore. I mean, you could check it out. I'm not sure if that's something that's in demand at all. So I think in this case, Google might help a lot.
Different grades of velvet.
Well, velvet, the nature of almost all velvet is that it's a very good wearing fabric.
Okay.
Some of the differences with velvet, though, are the natural cotton velvets and synthetic velvets. All cotton and all synthetic velvets tend to mark more, but marking is part of velvet. Shading is part of velvet, so you have to expect that.
Well, I'm thinking right now, when you're talking about the velvet, if you had a fabric that was, they say, velvet, and patches missing, is that a problem with velvet, or is that something that is just wear
You
and
just
tear?
described what a crushed velvet might look like new.
Really?
But velvet gets old. I have rarely seen a worn out piece of velvet.
Okay.
It's really
I
a tough
remember
material.
seeing something on the line of it where it was patches were.
Well,
Maybe
that's called, actually, you know what that's called? That's called a cut velvet. That's intentionally left out. The nap is left out of the fabric to show the back side of the fabric.
Oh, okay.
It's intentionally done. That's called the cut velvet. So there's many different types of velvet.
Yeah, okay.
It's a good question, though, Jimmy. Let's get to this, unless there's another question live. Okay. This was an email that came in during the live show.
Even just now.
Are they watching?
timing.
Are they watching?
I'm not sure.
Are they watching me?
They're all watching you.
Stand
Jim.
back, everybody.
Says, hello, we've been watching your YouTube videos on reupholstering chairs and would appreciate some insight on the proper tool use for the next step. We're having trouble with using an Arrow T50 electric staple gun to fasten down the seat foam to the frame as a shredding or cutting the foam. She purchased it near a shop near her. T50 is also pretty tough on the chenille fabric, yeah. Could you please tell us the proper tools to use in this finished product? She is having trouble. The electric guns, you guys, are not that great. And then she has a picture that, Patrick, do you have that picture up there? Yeah, she's got a problem. Jimmy, the best gun on the market, the air gun, the best gun is the one that we have available, the BEA that we have available on the upholstery website, Broadway Upholstery School, and she needs a compressor. She's using an electric gun. Listen, for people who are just starting out, even I think at one point used an electric gun, but I'm going to tell you something about an electric gun. The electric gun does not have the same quality of a staple going into the wood. And another problem with the gun, with the electric gun, is that it sends an impulse, and that impulse goes through your hand. So I see that she writes, "This is my personal hell," she writes. What could be happening to her too is that impulse, and I'm serious about this, that impulse can really bother you after a while. It's like every time you press the trigger, the electricity goes through the gun to shoot out the staple, but it's going through your hand and up your arm at the same time.
Oh yeah.
It's like an impulse. This does not have the gun.
That's lightweight.
The air gun doesn't have that effect. And it has less moving parts. The electric gun has too many moving parts. Too many things can go wrong with it. And what it does sometimes is it's too much pressure. And you can't modulate the pressure on an electric gun. So it's going through her fabric. So she needs to change up the gun. I know it's going to be expensive, but you can get it with me. If you don't want to spend the money first, Home Depot has guns. I don't particularly like those.
I priced. They have a set.
I know.
I can't name the name.
For a beginner, it's okay, and it would be better than the electric gun.
Oh yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
But what happens with those guns, because they don't work on a low cycle, is that they jam up very quickly and they break very quickly because they jam, and you try to unclog the jam. So the best gun is a gun that works on, when I say cycle, on your compressor. You got 80 pounds and it cycles, and then it starts to go down, right? Before it starts cycling up again. That's where most guns jam, not this gun. This gun is designed that it doesn't jam on the lower end of the cycle. That's what makes it different, and that's what makes it special. Plus, it's the lightweight. Those other guns, feel how lightweight that is.
Oh yeah, this is probably maybe.
So it does more than the job, and then there's a long nose gun too that gets into these tight spots that she has on her chair. So I'm afraid she does not have the proper tools for the job.
Okay.
So you might need to make an investment there. But thank you very much for that. So Patrick, is there any other business that you want to talk about? Or?
Yeah, that's it.
A raise?
I already told Jimmy his only raise is going to be with platform shoes.
Yeah. So much for the iced coffee once a week. I mean, obviously, I'm busting the budget again. So if anybody wants to start a GoFund, please.
A couple of pizzas, maybe.
Yeah, throw in a pizza. I'm good for it. Yeah. So cheap and easy.
So Jimmy, next week we're going to start in earnest tying the top of the springs.
This is gonna be a great class. I know it's gonna take the whole class, maybe even 2, but I wanna see how we all do this. This is
Check
gonna be
out
great.
Jimmy on the online classes. BroadwayUpholsterySchool.com.
Well, you gotta get used to that now.
BroadwayUpholsterySupply.com. Did you change the website too, Patrick?
Yeah, the school's still heavily featured, believe me.
Yeah, but you didn't change the code, the address, the website.
Yeah, it has been changed.
It has been.
But the old link still works, so
Wow.
you don't have to worry. So if you tell them school, they'll still be able to get there.
All
Just
right.
remember,
Still
folks,
school.
my shirt and me, I'm synonymous with everything.
Well, we'll see you next time. With that, we'll see you next time. Thanks, Jimmy.
Hey, no problem. Let's put everything away.